Right, so you filming?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, here we have Bendit Biscop on this side. This guy here, man of action, hand in the air. At the very, very top corner, you can see a man standing, and he's singing. And he's the man who brings Gregorian chant, the first bit of religious singing to this country. So that's the man singing. Just below, on that panel there, is people working on stone. They're making the stone. They're the stonemasons. And just below that, you can see a man in the corner there, and he's blowing glass. Can you see? He's got the big glass balloon.
Yeah, big glass.
So he's making glass there. This is actually a picture of Bendit Biscop going with a guy called Alfred. They travelled to Rome, so that's them walking around on the way to Rome. But that's Bendit Biscop, so that's your man of action. Here's Bede, this man of prayer. You'll notice these stones at the bottom. They're from Roker Beach. They're the type of stones you only get at Roker. So he's at prayer. Just up here, above his head, is the owl. And the owl is a symbol of wisdom. Wisdom, because he's the great writer and thinker. So it's a symbol of wisdom, but also of calm. There's lots of scenes. He's teaching people here. The top one is writing. You see him at his desk writing away. And various scenes of him walking along the cliffs, talking to people. There's him standing on his own on a rock. I don't know if you can carefully see that just there. Just incredible scenes. That's actually a picture of St. Peter's just at the bottom there. So he's on his horse. Can you see the horse just there? Riding around. So travelling around Northumbria, sharing the wisdom. So lots of scenes. The middle scene is, it starts off with this scene of people working on a girder. So they're working in the factories, making steel. Then there's people walking around the seafront at Roker. These are the bridges. That's the old St. Stephenson Bridge that was here. The new bridges that are here today. And then a bird's eye view of the river. And then here you've got people gazing across the river. This is the River Wear. There's a scene of the city here. You can see the three big towers you can still see today around the city. Then scenes of cranes and activity, people bustling around. At the very top is the church here. At the very top is St. Michael's, this church here. So huge detail, beautiful. But I love this comparison between the man of action and the man of prayer. And all of us need to be people who make things happen, but also have time to reflect and be silent. Especially Joe. The more we can keep him silent, the better.
You're doing a great job, Chris.
I mean, I'm not a great art historian, I don't know that much, but I know that the hand represents God at the top, and on one side you've got the stars, and the other side you've got the sun, God the creator of the universe. So I believe in God. God at the top of the just below the hand is the dove of peace, and then below that is Christ sitting there on his throne. Actually, it's the throne described in the book of Revelation. And then around is all the saints. So I believe the communion of saints, all the saints that are around. As at the very top, you got St. Simon. Can you see the saw? Yeah. Can you see him carrying the sword? He was chopped in half. It's not a very nice story. And below there is St. Bartholomew. St. Bartholomew's London is a big hospital in London. The surgeon's hospital. He's the patron saint of surgeons because he had his skin carefully taken off him. And there's the knife that did it. And just below, I think, what's the name of the... St. Thomas, who's killed by a spear. So he's carrying a spear because he was killed by a spear. And I can't remember the name, but one of them's got a club there. I can't remember who that one is. He was killed by a club. St. Andrew is at the bottom with his crucifix. He was crucified. St. James has got a shell. Can anyone see a man with a shell? And the shell, he's the patron saint of pilgrims. And they're always shown carrying a shell. But just behind him is St. Peter. And you can tell it's St. Peter because he's got a key, the keys to the kingdom of heaven. But this is St. Michael killing the devil in the image of a dragon. That's a very important thing. And here we have St. Nicholas with the boat. Can you see the boat? That's a boat, and it's a boat that was made in Sunderland itself, so it's a very special boat, and you can see the anchor and the ropes, all the symbols of the ship. And because Sunderland is in the Diocese of Durham, there is a crescent for the Durham here. This is the symbol, the coat of arms. On this side is the city coat of arms of Sunderland. It's changed now over the years, but originally this was it. Nil desperantem auspices Deo. Do not despair. Trust in God. You know, it's a lovely thing. Do not despair. So that's the motto for the city.
Excuse me?
Yes, of course.
Why is the bishop holding the boat?
Because his name is Saint Nicholas, and he's what we call the saint of sailors. He's the patron saint of, have you heard of St. George? St. George is the patron saint of England. Many places have this, but St. Nicholas is the patron saint of sailors. Sailors are people who go out to sea. So he's looking after the sailors. He's got the ship in his hands. He's looking after the sailors, making sure they're safe. When looking after sailors, that's exactly the answer. That's great. And I guess the anchor refers to what they say. Jesus is our anchor. He keeps us, anchored and whole. You had a question.
What does that mean? Stained glass window.
What does the main stained glass window? This one? Well, I guess it's the belief. It's the belief of the church.
Oh.
So what we call the creed, which are these words that say, I believe in God, the maker of, I don't see where it goes. I believe in God, the Father Almighty. I believe in the Holy Ghost, the Holy Catholic Church, in the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and the life everlasting. And there's lots of other bits in there. On the third day he rose again, so you have the scene of him. Yeah, that's what we call the creed. The creed, yeah. What is the creed? The creed is a kind of a statement of beliefs. A statement of beliefs. It's what Christians believe. A statement. That's a good word. A statement of belief. That's the creed. There you go. Makes some sense. Any other questions? You look like you have a question. No.
A statement of How old the bell?
How old the bells? I don't
They're less than 10 years old.
Lessons. So in the 19th years.
Yeah, they were. I can't remember when it was, but I looked it up online, and they were damaged for some reason. And they were recently there was a money raised, and new bells were put in within the last 10 years.
10 years. Let's say 10 years.
Just 10 years.
Yeah, very new.
Yeah, very new.
They're old. They used to be old bells, but they were old and not working, so they're new bells. Oh, it's a kind of a trick question because you think it's going to be very old.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Yeah.
What is the ghost? What is the ghost?
What is the ghost? Oh, it's going to get the ghost out. Yes. So here we have memory of Robert Hudson, a major church warden, Sunday school teacher, bell ringer, who met his death in the belfry. The belfry is where the bells are. Who met his death in the belfry, November the 26th, 1925. Our servant for Jesus' sake. So he is the one that's supposed to be the ghost.
Oh, here we go.
And I wonder, Joe, if you can see what's unusual about this list of names that's here. Anything unusual about these people who returned from the war?
What's the date of the First World War?
It's just above us.
Yeah.
On these
Wow.
1914 to 1918.
1914.
And what's really unusual about this memorial, and I don't know if you've been to other memorials, is that it hasn't ranked them.
What is the
None of them appear with their rank, whether privates or captains.
Oh, that's really good.
They're all given, it's just alphabetical, and nobody's given a special place. It's very, very unusual and wonderful, and part of Sunderland's socialist sort of influence.
Keep saying it.
What's this entrance called? This entrance called?
This is just called the War Memorial. This was built in 1919, to remember those who died in the First World War. So it's called a screen, really. The end of the First World War is 1918. So it was a screen on which they put the names of all those who died. But I was just saying to Joe, what's lovely about it is that it doesn't rank them. It doesn't say he was the major or the captain or the private. You know, they're all equal. So it's just alphabetical. All soldiers who died from Sunderland who died in the war. From this church.
From this year.
From this year.
The Civil War. In the the First World War.
In the First World War, yeah. There's another one for the Second World War.
What is the font used for?
What's the font? Oh, the font. Oh, the font here. Good question. Well, the font is used to baptise. It is used to baptise children. Baptise. In the Christian tradition, you welcome people into the church by baptising them with water. So you have the baby and you put water on the head. So that's called baptising. And we do it here. This is normally filled with water, holy water, and we baptise the children. A wash, but baptise is the proper term. Baptise. B-A-P-I-T-I-S-E. Baptise. Baptism is the general word. Baptise children. Very good. It means welcome them into the church. Yeah, we have the same. Yeah. Well, here are the two beautiful things. This is the window.
Yeah.
This is the window by William Morris. You know all about William Morris.
Yes.
You know a little bit about him, one of the most important historical artists. And he did many of these panels. He did all these panels here. But the one that really stands out, and it's just stylistic things, this middle one here, that's by Rossetti, one of the greatest artists in the British art and crafts, pre-Raphaelite tradition. This is by Ford of Alex Brown.
Which one's Rossetti?
Rossetti did that one there.
The third one up.
Yeah, it's Sermon on the Mount, actually.
Oh, right.
It's Jesus speaking to the gang. So, and these three panels are by a guy called Burne-Jones. He's another very influential artist. So these three are all by Burne-Jones. Yeah, but B-U-R-N-E-Jones. And really, if you go to London to the National Art Gallery, you'll see many pictures by
Sorry, can you repeat?
Jones. In fact, I will give you just for you. There. And in there, it's got the panels. Yeah. So on the Burne-Jones was the name of it. Yeah. So the scenes are, the first one is the Nativity. You're coming here for the Christmas carols. You'll love the Christmas carols. And the Christmas carols, remember the baby Jesus. That's the baby there. He's in a stable with the animals. There's the ox there, the angels all about. So that's Burne-Jones' Nativity. This is the three wise kings coming to visit Jesus and giving gifts. So we call that the visit of the Magi or magicians or the wise kings. And this was Jesus being baptized himself by John the Baptist. So very important historical scenes. This is William Morris. It must be.
It's the Last Supper, the top one.
The Last Supper. He's washing the feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, washing the feet then. And that's the story of the Sermon on the Mount. This is the feeding of the 5,000. The bread is being shared by everyone. What's noticeable, William Morris was a great believer in emancipation and women's votes.
Oh, yeah.
So you have lots of women in there. And in some of the story it says, feeding the men, but it's obviously women there as well. So the women have got the bread, it's a great emancipator. And this is when Jesus says, "Bring the children unto me. You go into this kingdom of God as a child." Haven't noticed what these ones about, but these are various scenes by William Morris that he drew. But Rossetti is the most beautiful one. And then the final thing that's interesting over here is this is a list of all the priests that we know of that were here. The first one, it dates back from 1214. So you can realise that this church here is very, very old. And down here you get Robert of Geneva, who becomes later the Pope Clement VII. So obviously it's an important area. We end up with the Pope. But here are the intruders. During the period of the Commonwealth, William Johnson, Samuel Hammond, William Groves, no king. We'd beheaded him. It was a lovely period where we didn't. But they weren't seen as real priests because they were here during the time of the Commonwealth. So they were seen as intruders. Intruder. Do you know what intruder means? It's like someone who comes into your house and steals your things. He's an intruder, a thief. So these weren't seen as real priests. They're my heroes. But anyway, never mind. So that's the history of the priests of the place.
I'm loving this. This poppy is for the war. Represents peace.
Right. So this is the nave of the church. It was like the central part of a church, and it's supposed to be like an upturned boat. I think naval is one of the words that comes from it. So that's a nave. It points towards the east end. All churches point towards Jerusalem. So if you kept on going that way, you get to Jerusalem. There you go. And that's why they're always called the east windows, east towards Jerusalem. The pulpit is where the sermon is given, and sometimes the Bible is read from. So that's the pulpit. That we actually use a smaller one because I often trip up on my dress, and so we use this one. And this is the altar, and this is where we serve the bread and the wine. In the Christian tradition, we remember Jesus' death, and we remember that he had the Last Supper. He shared bread and wine, and we share that from this table. It's called the altar. Have you learned something new today? Oh, good. That's wonderful. I try my best. But you can often find me around. I'm in the Edinburgh building, or I'm here, or sometimes I'm at St. Peter's campus if you ever go down there. But do find me if you've got any questions. And you're always welcome to come and join us on Sunday and see what happens in a Church of England service. We had a service earlier and a couple of Muslim friends came. Everyone is welcome. And you can see what happens in a traditional English church. Our services here are at 9:45. It's very early on a Sunday. But you'd be very welcome. But if you want to come for that walk, this Sunday at 12:30 we'll be leaving here. You'd be very welcome. Thank you all very much for visiting our minister. We feel very honoured that you've come here.